Good morning. This is the Parsha class, right?
Okay, we interrupt these conversations to bring us the weekly Torah portion. Okay. This week's Torah portion is Parsha Pekudei. Pekudei is the last portion in Chumash Shemos, in the book of Exodus. Pekudei is the last portion of Chumash Shemos. Many times it's combined with last week's Parsha, Parshas Vayakel. This week it was not. This past week is Vayakel. Thank you very much. Now, something it doesn't say on your sheets is that this week there's a special reading. We take out a second Torah scroll for Parshas HaChodesh. Parshas HaChodesh is the last of the 4 special readings that we have during this time of the year. We add on an extra little reading at the end of the past few weeks. We have Parshas Shkolim that deals with the half shekels that the people donated. We have Parshas Zachar that deal remembering about the wicked nation of Amalek. This past week we had Parshas Parah that deal with the red heifer to purify the Jewish people to be able to go into the temple. And this week is Parshas HaChodesh, where God commands us to count the months and to be prepared to do the Paschal lamb, the Korban Pesach, the sacrifice for Passover, which we don't have today because of the temple, but we read Parshas HaChodesh about. That's why we start, when we count the months of the year, we start from Nisan. That's going to be this coming month. It's going to be actually next Sunday is going to start the month. All right. Okay. So one of the things, by the way, that it's a lot of the parashas dealing with the accounting of the money for donations that were given to the Mishkan, because a lot of gold, silver, copper, among many other things, were given. And it talks about the actual construction of it, as it talked about a little bit last week. And one of the lessons that we can learn from this idea is there's usually a big gap from planning to do something to actually actualizing it and doing it. Yeah, plan, we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. Bottom line, what's happening? What happened? So here in the Mishkan, we see that God commanded a few weeks ago to collect for the Mishkan, and they did it, and they built it, and they did it, and that's an important idea, because you ever heard of the term cost overruns, delayed in production? There was an advertisement for a contractor, and in his advertisement he said, "We start every project we take." Which is funny, because it's really a problem. It's very hard to get the guy to finish the job. And here the Torah teaches us a very important idea that it's not enough just to plan to do good things. We have to actually actualize it and do the good things. Okay, so that's one lesson that we can learn from the Mishkan. And we talked about that the Jewish people donated tremendous amounts, and it was enough. They had enough to be able to complete the entire Mishkan. So much so that the Nesiim, the princes, as I mentioned last week, were willing to give whatever was missing, and they ended up being stuck because nothing was missing, because everybody donated what needed to be done. And interesting, by the way, they did a survey. And they said an interesting thing when it comes to American givers and non-givers, it's not based upon income. The charity gap is driven not by economics, but by values, which is interesting. In December 2005, Jonathan Rosenwald writes, Orthodox Jews are 50% more likely to volunteer their time, while 14% of Orthodox Jews contribute more than $5,000 to Jewish charity. And unfortunately, the non-Orthodox do much, much, much less, even though the Orthodox tuition bills could be in excess of $50,000 a year. So talking about the importance of giving and giving to the right thing. So the parsha begins with Moshe giving an accounting. Now, this is an important idea, the idea of the Yisem Nekiyim, which means you should be clean, not only in the eyes of God, but in the eyes of people, which is make sure that the money that's being given is accounted for and not being diverted for personal use or for the wrong things, which is a whole. I know that's something relevant to the news now. Is the tax money being used for the right thing? So we won't get into that subject. But the idea here is Moshe Rabbeinu, the most respected prophet of the Jewish people, and he's giving an accounting to make sure everybody understands all of the money donated went straight for the construction of the beautiful Mishkan, the tabernacle, and all the vessels that were in it. And this is an important lesson that we have to try to make sure that not only God, but others perceive us the right way. Even though a person could say, look, God knows that I was honest, so what do I have to? No. Make sure to be clear. Make sure everything is good. God knowing the truth is not enough. You have to be act in a way that people see that you're being above and beyond reproach. This gets us to another very important idea, and that is, how do we judge situations? And how do we judge ourselves? And I'm going to tell you an important idea, to have two rulers. Now, ruler we use to measure something, or yardstick, right? Now, what do you mean have two? What do you need two for? It's all the same. A yard is 3 feet, 36 inches. But what I mean by that is, in life, we should judge ourselves one way and other people another way. And what I mean by that is, many people do that. Some people say, I'm going to judge others like I would judge myself. I expect myself to do this, I expect others to do that. That's in between. The worst extreme is where we're very strict with other people and very lenient with ourselves. We make allowances and justify our behavior, but other people, we expect them to do A, B, C, and D. But the ideal way that the Torah wants us to be is to be strict with ourselves and be flexible and lenient with others. And the idea there is judging people favorably is one example of that. Now, when you judge yourself favorably, that's called justification, okay? But if you judge others favorably, then that's a good thing. I'll give you some cute examples of this. There was a woman sat down waiting for her flight, and she was eating cookies from a bag, and the gentleman sitting next to her was also eating cookies from the same bag. And he was a religious man, and she didn't want to say anything. The cookies were kosher, and he took the last one too. And she was a little perturbed about it, till she got onto the plane and realized that the bag of cookies was his, and she was taking his cookies. She had the same bag in her bag, and she thought she had taken it out, but really it was his bag of cookies. So we have to judge people favorably. She could have been upset at him. Hey, why take my cookies? And he said, it's not my cookie. It's not your cookies. It's my cookies. And that would have been a bad situation. But we have to judge people favorably. Another story is about a rabbi who came to a wedding, and a man says to him, "No one called you here." The host tells him, the father of the bride or groom, whatever, said, "No one called you here." And the person hearing this was like, "Why did he say that? That's very insulting. It's like you crashing my wedding, no one's called you here." And he went over to him. The host was a friend of his, says, "How could you talk to the rabbi?" He said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He says, "I heard you say no one called you." And he said, "Oh, you misunderstood. We were in the store this morning and I couldn't find my cell phone. So the rabbi said, let me loan you my cell phone and I'll come to the wedding to pick it up. So this way I know it's your busy day, the day of your son's wedding, and you're going to have to make phone calls. Just in case you don't find the phone, your cell phone, you'll use my cell phone." And when he came in, I let the rabbi know no one called him here, that he didn't get any calls. There were no messages. So you can have your phone back and don't worry about it. So again, it's judging people favorably, a very important idea. So the importance of having two rulers, how we judge ourselves, to judge ourselves more strictly and judge others favorably, is a very, very good thing. So interestingly, in the tabernacle in Hebrew is called Mishkan. And the opening verse, these are the reckonings of the tabernacle of testimony. And the commentaries say, why do we have it, the word Mishkan, tabernacle, twice? And Rashi, the premier commentary, says something very powerful. He says, the word Mishkan is actually a play on words. Mishkan is mashkin, is also collateral. You know what collateral is? You have a loan and you don't pay up, then the collateral gets taken, right? So the Mishkan is collateral for the Jewish people, meaning to say that if we do and the two Mishkans represent the two temples that would be built in Jerusalem. If we behave properly, then the temple stay. If we don't, if we sin, then the mashkin, the collateral was taken away and the temple was taken away. And that happened twice in history, that we had two temples, the first temple and then the second temple, and both were destroyed hundreds of years apart, but they both were destroyed because we didn't live up to the mandate that God wanted us to do. So it's a mishkan is also a mashkin, it's also collateral. So it's a play on words. That's why it says it twice, because there were two temples. Interestingly enough, something that's repeated in the portion again and again and again. If you look in the text, as Hashem commanded Moses, it says it after each part, it's as Hashem commanded Moses. As a matter of fact, it says it 18 times in this week's portion. What's the significance of that? What happened with the Egel, the golden calf? What happened with the Egel, with the golden calf, is that they made something on their own. And the Mishkan, the tabernacle, is to repair the damage of that. And how do you repair the damage of that? You repair the damage by doing what God said. and not coming up with your newfangled idea on your own. And that's really, by the way, whenever you ask a question, why did God command us to do mitzvah X, Y, and Z? I don't understand this mitzvah. And the first answer we give is God said so. Then we can go into deeper understanding what the commentaries may say. But the first answer is because God said so. And so I want to come back to one thing, though, a beautiful, beautiful story related to giving for the right thing and not giving for the wrong thing. There was a man named Rabbi Yitzchak, who was the owner of a beautiful gem. And it got a lot of fame and was worth a lot of money. And the messengers came to him from a ruler that wanted to pay top dollar for it. And he asked them, what does he want it for? He says, oh, he wants it for the eye of the idol that he has. The eye for the idol. So Rabbi Yitzchak said, I'm sorry, it's not for sale. He didn't want to sell it for an idol that people are going to worship. Nope, not selling it. They offered him a lot of money and said, nope. And then they sent a message to him that a family was captured, a Jewish family is being captured, they need to be redeemed, and he should come with the gem to redeem the family. So he came running with the gem onto the boat where they said that this family was captured. And it was the messengers from the ruler again who said, nah, there's no family captured. We just wanted to get you on the boat to make sure you're going to sell us the gem, or else. And he took it out and went to the side, ran to the side of the boat and threw it into the water, and threw it away, and lost all of the money because he didn't want to sell it for the idol. And the story is told that a voice from heaven said, you gave up your gem for God's honor, you will have a son who will be a gem that will light up the world. And his son became the commentary Rashi, who comments on all of the written Torah and all of the oral Torah. And Rashi is an acronym for Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, Rabbi Shlomo, the son of Yitzchak. So he gave up the gem and lost a lot of money, but he got a gem that today people study. Rashi, by the way, Rashi's commentary on the Torah has been translated by Art Scroll, and it's a fantastic commentary. And any chumash you have, anytime you buy a chumash, if it has any commentary, it'll definitely have Rashi. It may have other commentaries, but it definitely has Rashi. And you'll see it's an acronym. Rashi is Reish and Yud, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchak. And the man had the merit of having a son like that because he threw the idol away and lost all the money so that it shouldn't be used for the wrong thing. But getting back to what we talked about doing things because God commanded us, there's a fascinating article written by Rabbi Feldman several years ago. Rabbi Emanuel Feldman was a rabbi in Atlanta, Georgia, and he gives an interesting analysis of how Reform and Conservative movement came about. Now, the simple example, not using his article, I'm going to read the article to you in a minute. The simple answer of how it came about is, do you believe the Torah is divine? Do you believe the Torah is not divine? Do you believe in the oral Torah, what the rabbis decided, extracted from the text about what the Jewish law is, or don't you? But he takes a very different approach, which in a sense is a very beautiful approach, but it teaches us an important lesson. So bear with me for a minute. If you like a copy, let me know. We'll make a copy. It's difficult enough to live in Israel for the U.S., to leave Israel for years during Hanukkah, but the letdown of exile descended upon me quickly while I'm still on the plane. I opened up a magazine and they hit me right there. Celebrate the warmth and the wonder of both Hanukkah and Xmas, the perfect way for interfaith families to celebrate the holidays. The Hanukkah tree topper makes a great gift for Hanukkah or Xmas traditions. A must-have for interfaith marriages, yours for only $19.99. The tree topper is a specially designed Magen David that fits perfectly on the top of an Xmas tree. Okay. Help. Once upon a time, an intermarriage was an embarrassment to a Jewish family, but today, with an intermarriage in US over 50% and in Europe over 70%, it's become quite acceptable and normal. Although Hanukkah celebrates the miraculous victory over Hellenism that wanted to obliterate all signs of Jewish distinctiveness, this ad demonstrates that the battle is still raging and the focus of obliteration and the forces of obliteration are getting stronger. How did it happen that 2,000 years after the miracle of Hanukkah, we are still losing millions of Jews to the scourge of assimilation and intermarriage? This is what happened when misguided Jewish leaders tried to, quote, save Judaism for future generations. Yet it was inevitable that it all end with must-have Hanukkah tree topper for $19.99. Here is the path of the race to the bottom. In order to bring people back to the synagogue, certain restrictive disciplines of Torah were relaxed or eliminated. Prayers are changed from Hebrew to English. Laws of kosher restrictions are eased. The separation between men and women were dropped. Modesty standards were eliminated. Driving to Shul on Shabbos was permitted. These steps were not deliberate attempts to destroy Torah, but to save it. The theory was that unless such emergency measures were adopted, Judaism was doomed. Yet once certain barriers were broken, it became very easy to break down others. And soon enough, prayers were abbreviated, the prayer book was abridged, conversion procedures were abandoned. But with these, quote, improvements, their Judaism was failing. It was clear that more resuscitation was needed for the high purpose of saving Judaism. It seemed necessary to ordain women as rabbis, and soon enough it was discovered that that which the Torah clearly spells abomination was and actually not forbidden, and it became easier for rabbis to officiate at same-gender marriages. All this was not because there was any evil desire to destroy Judaism, but to save it. But these efforts did nothing to improve the perilous state of Judaism. Their numbers were dwindling, lost assimilation. So in order to preserve Judaism, they permitted the rabbis to officiate at intermarriages, and they accepted intermarried couples without even a pretense of minimal conversion to a Jewish practice. And so it developed that the form of Judaism in our time has been denuded of its uniqueness and has become indistinguishable from the majority religion. The Hanukkah tree tap is a perfect symbol of Judaism that was saved by destroying it. It is a worthy companion to the Hanukkah bush and to the chubby gift-giving Hanukkah man. The operation was successful, but the patient died. I remember a recent convention with a prominent American conservative rabbi. He had been raised as an Orthodox Jew, had been a brilliant yeshiva student, was scholarly and still personally observant. But decades early in the 1950s, he had led his prominent Orthodox synagogue to the conservative camp because he believed that Torah would not survive in America and that he would save whatever remnants he could. When we spoke, he had long realized his fatal error. He brought to mind advice my late father, a rabbi in Baltimore for 40 years, gave me as I began my own rabbinate in Atlanta. Do not try to save Judaism. Simply do your job as a rabbi every day. Teach your flock and guide them gradually into Torah observance and learning, and let God worry about the future of Judaism. In other words, God is not asking us to save Torah, but to live Torah, to teach Torah, to do Torah, and to leave the saving to Him. Although outnumbered decades ago, the Orthodox today embody the many that came from the few, having kept alive the spirit of the Maccabees who fought for the integrity of Torah. The Orthodox went about establishing schools of Jewish learning, day schools, yeshivas, kollalim, and intensified Torah study, while everyone else was busy trying to save Judaism by abandoning it. Travel is boring, but it also can be disheartening. I have strong desires to return to my cocoon in Jerusalem, where no one is trying to save Judaism or fixing it. They're just too busy living it. Very, very, I think very powerful. And again, he's very respectful in a sense, because he's saying that their intentions may not have been bad, but the results are disastrous for the Jewish people. And this, unfortunately, is the reality. The reality is we may think we know what will work to save Judaism, but in fact, that's not how it works. Interestingly enough, by the way, part of the story that just as an aside, he came to Atlanta to open up the synagogue, and they told him that they don't want to, and he was hired, and he said, we don't want to have the partition between the men and women. He said, well, then I can't be your rabbi. And he left, and he just started, whoever, the few people that went to came with him, he started a little small thing, and now it's a beautiful synagogue in Atlanta that his son is actually the rabbi of. He lives in Israel. Okay. Any questions or comments about the article?
Can we have a copy?
You can get a copy. Some of the words need to be translated. I translated it when I read it, but yeah, you can.
Yes, Rabbi, I would ask if you could please send me a copy as well.
No
It's very
problem.
pertinent, very pertinent.
Yeah, look, it's and again, I want to be very clear here. We can't judge people who are not following the Torah, because many of them didn't know any better. We're not taught better, and we're not taught and didn't know better. And they're following, the people who they looked up to. But the leadership needs to understand that's not the case, and it's not working. And the proof is in the pudding, like I said, community in Lakewood, New Jersey has become very strong Orthodox community, and all the Reform and Conservative synagogues are selling them out to the yeshiva there, and they're opening up another study hall, another place for people to study and pray. So this is not he was very respectful. He's not doing a personal attack on anybody. He's just saying that the thought process is misguided, and that's all right. Just going back to the idea of doing everything in the Mishkan because God said, there's a story about the man who gave a poor person charity, and then he chased after him and gave him a second time. So he said, you just gave me, why'd you give me a second time? He said, the first time I gave you because I felt badly for your situation. The second time I was giving it because God said I should. And I didn't think about that when I gave it the first time. So I wanted to do it because God commanded me. So, Nicole?
Yeah, prepared.
It's 73, I'll make it 74, the lady shouldn't complain. Jacket, okay, everyone's sacrificing, okay, it's 75 now. Okay. It'll be too hot, you let me know if it's too hot. Because this way, if a lady says it's too hot, then I can change the air conditioning, that's a different story. I told you what's going to happen. After 120 years, I'm going to be in hell. I'm it's boiling, it's terrible. And the women say, oh, it's so toasty. Ay, 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 ay. In any event, so interestingly enough, we said that it says it 18 times. What's the significance of 18? What? Chai is life is 18, correct. So one aspect is that what you said, Chai is living. You live spiritually well when you're doing what God tells you to do. Interestingly enough, the men of the Great Assembly made the Shemona Esrei, the main prayer during the weekdays, initially had 18 blessings. It's not a coincidence. Now we added on one more, so it's 19. But in lieu of sacrifices, we have prayer today. We have no temple today. So Moshe is told, set up the Mishkan. Put it up. Now, the Mishkan was pretty big. How's he supposed to lift it up? And God tells him, you just do it. And what happened was, Moses erected the temple, he put it down in its socket and placed its planks and inserted its bars and erected the pillars. So Moshe said, I can't do this myself. And God said, don't worry about it. You just do it. Don't worry about it. And what ended up happening? God helped him do it. And what happens? God helped him do it, but he gets the credit. And that's true in life. Anything we want to accomplish, we think we have to do, and we have to try, but it's really the Almighty who helps us out. We had a similar idea a few months ago when we talked about Basia, the daughter of Pharaoh, who couldn't reach the baby Moshe in the basket, but she tried, and Almighty made her arm stretch, and she was able to pull him in and save him. So she gets credit for it, even though God had to help him. And this is interesting. There was a very special person named Rabbi Meir Schuster. I had the honor of meeting him once. He was a very shy individual. And he would stand by the Western Wall and go over to American or English-speaking from Australia or whatever, or England, who were not religious, and he'd go over to them and said, would you like to have a place for a meal for Shabbos? Would you like to attend a free class? And it was counter his personality. It was fascinating because he was like very, very shy, but he so felt the need to reach out to try to bring people closer to Judaism. There's a book about him, Meir Schuster is his name. And he went against his nature so that he could introduce people to Judaism. And there are a lot of amazing amount of people that were influenced by him that got him to go, they got the person to go to a class or to a Shabbos meal, and or both, or one or the other. And because of that, was successful in getting them on their journey to become observant. But just a fascinating personality. Again, we have to do ours and leave the rest up to Hashem. So this is interesting. The article brings on the bottom page 536 and verse 43, it says, Cain also, so they had done. This is the third time in the chapter that this expression is used, verses 32, 42, and 43. The apparent redundancy may allude to the three elements of the sin of the golden calf, for which Jews atoned by making the tabernacle. They expressed their denial of the Torah in deed, by worshiping the calf, in speech by calling it a god, and in thought by believing that it had divine powers. So this is an important idea. So the Orach Chaim is in performing their duty to make the tabernacle, they showed their loyalty to God in the same three ways: in deed, by contributing; in thought, by dedicating their intelligence to the task; and in speech, by declaring it throughout the work that they were doing it for the sake of heaven. So it's, again, three ideas of thought, deed, speech, and deed. They had 8 days of practicing, and then the divine presence would rest upon it. And God blessed it. Moshe blessed it, and it's a very beautiful page 537, verse 43. And Moses blessed them, and this is what he said. And it just, to me, it was a very beautiful idea, and really it's something that we could think about when we want to do a good project. May it be God's will that the divine presence rest upon your handiwork. May the pleasantness of my Lord, our God, be upon us. Our handiwork may he establish for us. Our handiwork may he establish. Based upon Psalm that Moshe wrote. So it's a beautiful idea that we want the divine presence to rest upon our work and our thought process. And finally, the divine cloud rested upon the Mishkan. It worked, and when the cloud would rise, it would be time to move, and when it rested, it means that the Jewish people would stay there. And then when we get to following the divine cloud is a very beautiful and powerful idea, that we should follow the divine cloud, which is try to follow God's lead. I think I may share the story. I love the story about this rabbi and Moel, a circumciser, who were on a train going to a certain destination. They were talking Torah thoughts, and they missed their stop. They didn't realize, and they got off at the next stop, and they found out that the train coming back going the other way is not going to be for another day or so. And they were very and the Moel, this ritual circumciser, he was panicking. But the rabbi said, "No, this is it. Let's see if we can find some Jews here in town." Yeah, any Jews in town? No Jews, no Jews. Oh no, why are we here? What are we gonna do? Let's see. And he traveled until he came to the edge of town, and he found one house, and he knocked on the door, and the man opened the door and said, "Wow, my prayers were answered. My wife had a baby 8 days ago, and I needed a Moel, a ritual circumciser, and I'm busy taking care of the other kids, and we couldn't go anywhere. She's not feeling well, and a rabbi to hold the baby, and they did the bris, and the rabbi held the baby, and the rabbi turned to him and says, the Jews never lost. God puts us in a place for a reason. Be aware of that. And we may not see it all right away or not, but either way, we should look at it and see what's the purpose. Why am I here? So if we look at the end, if you have the Chumash 540, 541, at the end of the Torah reading, since it's the last verse of this Chumash, of this one of the 5 books, we stand and we say, Chazak, Chazak, v'nis chazek. May we be strong and be strengthened to be able to accomplish and finish other books as well. So that is about Parsha Pekudei, the final portion in Chumash Shemos, the book of Exodus. Any questions, thoughts, or comments?
What does it mean, Chazak?
Chazak, strong. You should be strengthened.
It's like Chazak.
Like what? A Kozak? No, Kozak, that's not. We don't want Cossacks. We don't want the Cossacks. Cossacks sent back to Siberia. We do not want the Cossacks here.
So this is Chazak.
Chazak with a Ch. Chazak. Yeah. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
Or versions that you've read, like
For extra readings, yes. Shkolim, about the half shekels. The second one was Zachar, was remembering about Amalek. Parah was last week about the red heifer, and this week is HaChodesh.
right? So you understood
Should
my
come.
question.
What, about the Cossacks? Yes, I understand. Out, Siberia. Unfortunately, we know about the Cossacks, yes. I'm sorry?
That particular year has to be read during a certain part of the year.
Right, Shkolim is before Rosh Chodesh Adar. That's when they started telling people, get ready to give the half shekel. Zachar is remembering Amalek, that's before Purim, because Haman was from Purim. Parah is to purify yourselves, to be able to bring the Paschal lamb, you have to be pure, ritually pure. And HaChodesh is, again, about the month of Nisan and the Carbon Pesach, and what the Jewish people did in Egypt about.
So this Parsha starts on this is coming.
No, this coming, HaChodesh is the Shabbos before we start Chodesh Nisan. Chodesh Nisan actually is going to be Saturday night, Sunday. A week from today. Pesach is coming. All right, any questions, thoughts, comments?
We're thinking about the cheapest matzah.
The cheapest matzah? I have no idea.
$15.
The
the
round
big
ones,
one.
they have.
Why it's good? Always it's good.
I don't know, don't get burnt ones. You see, you also, when you ask cheapest matzah, there's different types of matzah, which we'll talk about in the class on the 5th. There's matzah that comes square in the boxes, and that is made by machine, and that's very uniform and not so burnt. And then there's a better quality from the point of view of personal taste, my personal taste, but the better quality, they're handmade, those are the round ones. But Costco's selling round made.
Yeah.
But it's always burnt.
Turn the other side may not be burnt. Mm.
How can it be
I don't know, you taste it, you'll try it.
sweet?
So don't then get ones that aren't, look around, some boxes have burnt ones, some don't have some burnt ones, they're not so badly burnt, it's a little bit.
It's
How can you can't open up the box and see which one's good.
It's fine, it's fine. They're not so bad, it's not so bad. But go right ahead, you just did, what's the third question?
The time of Nisan, it's a special time, right?
Well, it's a month of miracles, Adar and Nisan are both months of miracles, it's one is the revealed miracles and one's the hidden miracles.
I was curious to be like working on any special, says months of Nisan.
Getting rid of the chametz in our home and inside ourselves. Yeah, definitely. All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, zooming? Diane, you have a cold? No, you're good. I saw a bit of tissue before, so I just wanted, okay. Very good. Feel good, everybody.
Thank you,
Take
Rabbi.
care. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi
Yep.
Czapnik.
You're welcome. Take care. Take care, Bracha, Diane, David, Michelle.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Take care. Malka.
Okay.
Rabbi.